Have you ever said yes when every part of you was screaming no? You agreed to a meeting, a call, a favor, and then spent half the day angry at yourself. Not at the person, at yourself. Or here is another familiar feeling. You finally set a boundary, calmly, without shouting. But instead of relief, you felt guilt. Like you did something wrong, selfish, almost offensive. Maybe this is you, or maybe it's someone you know very well. Because guilt over boundaries, it is one of the most invisible psychological traps. It doesn't look like weakness. Often it looks like politeness, like kindness, like I'm just a nice person. But underneath, there is a much deeper story. Let's break it down. First, the type often called the convenient one. Imagine someone who can predict what others need before they even ask. They feel the tension in the room, the change in tone, the slight irritation, and automatically they adjust. These people grew up with the idea that harmony is more important than comfort, that love is not something stable, but something you have to earn. In this context, a boundary feels like a threat. They think, if I say no, they will stop loving me. Psychologically, the guilt here isn't about the boundary itself. It's about the fear of losing connection, even if that fear is unconscious. If this is you, you probably feel that choosing yourself means disappointing someone else. And every time you choose yourself, a quiet voice asks, did I have the right? Then there is another type, less obvious. These are people who confuse boundaries with aggression. For them, any I can't sounds like an attack. Any this doesn't work for me sounds like a conflict. Imagine someone who grew up in an environment where boundaries were met with shouting, insults, or cold silence, where the word no always had consequences. As an adult, this person might be very soft, patient, compliant, but when they try to set a boundary, their body reacts as if something bad is about to happen. Heart beats faster, tension rises, and almost automatically, guilt appears. Because the brain remembers, boundaries equal danger. Even if the person in front of you is safe, your internal alarm system is still following old rules. But there is a quieter type. People who feel guilty not for saying no, but for having needs at all. They feel uncomfortable having boundaries because they feel uncomfortable having desires. They might think, others have it harder than me. I can handle it. It's not that important. Psychologically, this is linked to low self-worth. Not dramatic, not obvious, but very mundane. These people don't feel anger when their boundaries are crossed. They feel shame for wanting something else in the first place. If this is you, maybe you minimize yourself without even noticing. And every boundary feels like an exaggeration. And now, a twist. Some people feel guilty about boundaries because they are afraid of becoming bad in their own eyes. They have a very strong moral compass. They want to be good, honest, human. But somewhere along the way, they learn that kindness always means sacrifice. So when they say, this doesn't work for me, an internal conflict starts. I am protecting myself versus I am not a good enough person. This isn't about low self-esteem. It's about an internal ethics system that hasn't yet included self-care as a moral value. Here is what matters. Guilt over boundaries doesn't mean the boundaries are wrong. It means that at some point in your life, you had to choose between connection and yourself. And connection was more important. Boundaries are a skill, not a personality trait. And the first attempts always feel awkward, artificial, like you are playing a role that doesn't quite fit. That is exactly why guilt appears. It signals change, not a mistake. So if you want to apologize or explain after saying no, it doesn't mean you are selfish. It means your nervous system is learning a new reality. And perhaps most importantly, people who truly respect you don't need your guilt to stay. And those who need your guilt often benefited from your lack of boundaries. So ask yourself, are you feeling guilty for your boundary or for their discomfort? And whose job is it really to handle that discomfort? Think about it. And if you recognized yourself, you are not alone. You are just in the process of learning to be on your own side.